you want to join the chat, you can leave a comment on YouTube or Periscope or any of that, and I will see it hopefully, and yeah, we can talk live here. So I wanted to clear up some misconceptions. Oh, Decole. There is some drama. Of course there's drama. Hey, how's it going? It's Sergio, right? Good to see ya. Yeah, I just think every once in a while it's good to actually talk, so you can hear my voice, and hopefully we can get the full context, especially if our overall goal as a community, hey John, how's it going, man, is to create some understanding and hopefully sharpen each other and move the art of bootstrapping and business forward. By the way, my throat is super scratchy and my eyes are burning. This is the smoke out in the Okanagan right now. It's brutal. I'm suffering quite a bit actually, but this will be a nice distraction. So yeah, we're going to go through some of the common misconceptions I hear, especially when folks, when I talk about going after a market with demand. So let's bring these tweets up and we can kind of follow along. And again, feel free to talk in the comments. Feel free to ask questions. I mean, I might even be able to get some of you folks on Skype if you want to call in. I wish there was an easier way for me to do that, but let's get this going here. So here's the first piece, and yeah, we're going to go through this kind of bit by bit. Can I make this? Here we go. All right, so yeah, we'll go by this bit by bit, and hopefully this is entertaining and useful for everybody involved. This is, how do I get my, oh wait, where's my, oh, there we go. I don't know if I should use this one or this one. All right, so people seem to misunderstand me when I say go after a market with strong demand. And some of the variations of this are, people think I'm talking about building a product in a popular market. People think I'm talking about building a product in a market with lots of competitors, or building a copycat. That's one that I've noticed a few times. And I think part of this is, folks, when I give examples, people think I'm being prescriptive instead of illustrative. I'm not actually telling you, when I used Adam Wathan as an example with Tailwind UI or refactoring UI, I'm not saying that you should go and compete with him, that you should rip off his product and build it because it's there's evidence of strong demand. No, it's illustrative of the principles that I'm talking about. And some of this nuance is difficult to communicate in tweets. In tweets, I'm only able to give you a little slice of the whole picture. So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask me in the chat. Like I said, we got Colburn here, we got Sergio, we got John. If you're watching this live from somewhere, say hello, and yeah, I'll answer as many questions as I can in the chat. So semantics. When I talk about a market, I'm describing the sum of demand. Meaning, is there a market for this thing? Is there enough demand, enough potential customers who are spending money at some sort of frequency and have a willingness to pay for a particular thing. And I've focused a lot lately on existing market categories. And there's a great post by Greg Kogan on this, No New Categories. I highly recommend it. And, a category or a market category is a group of products that solve a similar product in a similar way to a similar audience. So you have an application performance monitoring system, or a marketing platform, or even a CRM. These are existing categories. And in reality, categories are just words. They're terms we've used to describe, they're common terms we use to describe a thing, right? That is being purchased at some regularity. But it doesn't have to necessarily be an existing category. I think there's a lot of opportunities in existing categories. But when I talk about a market, I'm just talking about a sum of demand for a particular thing. So number of customers, how much they spend, the frequency at which they buy, and their willingness to pay. So before you build a product, you're looking for evidence of demand. You're looking for, is there a way, I wish I could clean this up so that, I don't know if it's going to get any better than that. Sometimes folks are already buying products in a category, but they're itching for a better solution. Like before Tailwind and refactoring UI and Tailwind UI components, there was Bootstrap, there was Foundation. Like if we look up Tailwind alternatives, you're going to get, oh no, that's not what, Bootstrap alternatives. Let's see what. Foundation, Balma, Tailwind, HTML5 boilerplate, Material UI, Metro UI. This is an existing category. And Adam and Steve Shoger went into this category with Tailwind CSS, right? This is what I'm talking about. And Tailwind UI. And it was already going for a long time, but they saw an unmet demand. People were itching for a better solution. They had a better way of doing it. So if you notice folks putting considerable effort into hacking together their own solution, there might be an opportunity there as well. Well, thanks, Sergio. I'm glad someone's on my side. In some ways, I'm confused too. I think some folks are taking my examples as prescriptive instead of illustrative. I think that's one issue. And I don't know. I don't know why there's so much, especially kind of like snark around it. I have really no financial incentive to share any of this. I'm just trying to move the art forward. Almost all of my income is made through Transistor right now. I don't really have a financial incentive to share anything. In fact, I probably have a disincentive to do it because clearly I'm making some enemies here. But you nailed it there. Sometimes there's existing products, but people are aching for solutions. Absolutely. There's lots of examples of this. Demand and supply, period. Yes. Now, of course, there's more nuance to everything. So let's continue here. And I don't know if it'll be less distracting for me to, let's see here. I can't really, I'm just trying to cover all this part. Next time I got to use that Chrome extension to yeah. All right, so here we go. So here's another misconception. Jason Zook was kind enough to share this. Oh, now I'm too zoomed out. Okay, here we go. I'm not saying that everyone should start a coffee shop. So I have this example of folks lining up outside of a coffee shop as to illustrate this idea of demand. So, and this was proven in my small town here. There's tons of coffee shops, but my friend Andrew started a coffee place called Ratio. and I use it as an example all the time. And Andrew saw demand. He saw people lining up outside of other coffee shops. Maybe he was listening to what they were saying, like, you know what, I'd really like something that was a little bit more like this, or, coffee, someone who got their beans from here. He's seeing there's demand for coffee. It's an existing category, and he saw an opportunity for himself to go in and compete there. But the point of the metaphor is, don't try to do demand generation. Like, don't try to go and just magically create demand out of thin air. Maybe using your own abilities as a founder to, your own popularity or your own charisma or whatever to somehow conjure demand out of thin air. Like Jason Cohen says, the point of the metaphor is, don't do demand generation. Rather, go where demand is built in. Then it's even easier, even when there are competitors. Continuing on this part here. So this came up quite a bit. People thinking that I'm using the example of podcast hosting, which is the industry I'm in, as to somehow say, like, I noticed that podcasting was popular, and then I just decided to go out and jump on that trend, and that's how I was successful. So therefore, the lesson is, you should just start a podcast hosting company like I did. That's not what I'm saying. Again, that example is illustrative, not prescriptive. I'm not telling anybody to build the same thing that I did or anybody else did. When surfers spot an oncoming wave, their ability to ride it depends on how good they are, their position in the water, etc. The skills, network timing, and execution of the founding team do matter, but without a wave, they're useless. So this is, I know some folks are getting tired of me hammering on this one point, but it's as simple as this. A surfer without a wave is not a surfer. An entrepreneur without demand, a product without demand, basically doesn't exist. You have to have demand. Demand is the foundation. It's the first thing you need in order to build a business. If there's no demand, then you can't build a business. And so, if we're going to use podcasting as an example, I've been podcasting since 2012. I'd been listening to podcasts for years before that. Even prior to that, I had a huge interest in talk radio. I knew somebody that owned a talk radio station. There is an accumulation of things in my life and my co-founder's life, John Buddha, that made going after the building momentum in the podcasting space, it made sense for us to go after it. And if I go head to head with Kelly Slater, who's a pro surfer, if I go head to head with him, I'm not going to win because I'm a beginner surfer, right? You want to go after waves and opportunities where you at least think you have a chance to win, where you've got some sort of built-in advantage, where you have some strengths, some skills, a network, the right timing, etc. This is a good question, Alex. I'm going to come back to this. And apparently I look really Northwestern European. Okay. All right, so let's get back to this thread here. Build it and they will come? Well, yes, if the demand is there and you're the right founder for the job and you've built a product that meets the demand and your timing is right and you've found some good distribution channels, then yes, that's the whole picture. But especially on Twitter, but even in a blog post or a podcast, when you're trying to go deep on a particular slice on a particular topic within an encyclopedia of knowledge, or an encyclopedia of, the entirety of a theory, you can't disqualify me for going deep on a topic, right? It's okay to go deep. Of course, there's other things you'll need to succeed, and demand, you being the right founder for the job, you've built a product that meets the demand, etc. So let's just take a quick break because someone's DMing me and I just want to make sure I'm not missing something or my fly's not undone or something. Again, there's the smoke and noggin while I'm looking at my DMs here. Okay. Somebody is asking me. Okay, this is a question from Alex. And all right. Okay, so just gonna go back to where we were. All right, thanks for sticking with me. All right, so here we go, back on the thread. It doesn't matter how good of a surfer you are. No wave, no surfing. It doesn't matter how talented of a founder you are. No demand, no business. Now the reverse of this is also true. Meaning, if you're a bad surfer, if you have no surfing skill, then it doesn't matter if there's a great wave, right? If you've got terrible timing, it doesn't matter if there's a great wave. So, yes, these are both true, forward and backwards. Here's another misinterpretation. A market with demand equals a popular or easy market. None of this is easy. I've been trying to build businesses since I was in high school. I had a rave company when I was in high school, and then I graduated. I started a skateboard and snowboard shop, and then I went to college and I started a web design company. Then I just kept going, right? I've been doing this for a long time, and there's been some line drives in there. There's been some things that were not too bad. Transistor is certainly the best thing that I've built so far, but none of this is easy, and most good opportunities are not obvious, especially to outsiders. You're looking for evidence of unmet demand in a category that you understand or you have some sort of advantage, right? So I'm not saying you should create things in a popular market, especially if customers already have multiple options and they're happy with them. And, if there's already multiple options and people are happy with it, then it's most likely a low demand opportunity. And sure, this is why bootstrappers probably shouldn't build another to-do app, project management app, etc., unless you've truly observed some sort of untapped demand and you have the ability to actually do it. Also, not advocating that anybody go head-to-head with incumbents unless they have the ability to do so. So, beginners shouldn't compete with Kelly Slater, but if you're Italo Ferreira, go for it. And this is why I think someone like Ruben Gamez can go head-to-head with DocuSign, which is a massive company in a mature market, because if anybody can do it, if anybody can surf that wave and compete against the Kelly Slater of that industry, it's Ruben. Look for demonstrated demand. That doesn't mean it's going to be obvious or easy. Most likely, you'll spot opportunities in spaces you're already spending time in. And I talk a lot about this in the Business is Surfing article. There's a whole section on developing fundamentals, gaining relevant skills, making connections, understanding a market or industry, observing demand. And I go through this section's huge. It's like all of this is the preparation stuff that will lead you to maybe observing an unmet need. And then finally, I'm not using examples of successful when I use examples of companies like Fathom or Geocodio or Basecamp, it's for context. I'm not advising you to go and try to start a similar product in a similar market. That wave has sailed. Like that, it's gone. Your chance, most likely, not always, maybe some of these incumbents are old and crusty and you're noticing a gap in the market. But again, these examples are illustrative, not prescriptive. The idea is that you look for momentum that's building, not a wave that's cresting. So, and if you're in the water and you observe a wave, you'll have to be there at the right time with the right skills, the right connections, the right resources to take advantage of it. So don't try to ride someone else's wave. Find your own. That's the whole point of the metaphor of businesses like surfing. While I take a break here, any questions or comments on any of that? I'll stay on for a little bit longer if anybody else has anything they want to talk about. Oh, and I'll get to Alex's question here in a sec. Can I add this? How do I add this? No, I can't add comments for some reason. There we go. Yeah, I'll get to this question in a second. All right. Okay, so would y'all ever experiment with making a podcast app? There's demand and not good solutions. This is actually perfect. This is a perfect example because just because there are a lot of incumbents doesn't mean there's a lot of demand. This is perfect. Just because there's a lot of surfers surfing the wave doesn't mean there's enough wave left for you. The demand isn't demand comes from customers, right? So generally, if you're going to go into a market, you want there to be demand from customers. Customers want something else, right? There's they're investing effort and time and money to find a new solution. Having a bunch of competitors already in the market, that doesn't necessarily mean there's demand. Sometimes it's a sign of, sometimes it can be a sign of demand. And I've also said in the past, you shouldn't necessarily let a crowded market deter you if there's way more demand than there is competition. Does that make sense? That's the nuance. And so podcasting apps, I think, are not a great market for a few reasons. First, I guess it depends on what you want to achieve. But if you're trying to bootstrap a business and you're trying to earn some sort of income from it, it's just, there's not a lot of people that can make that business work and get people to pay, right? So, and really, I think it's Marco Arment is the only independent, Marco Arment and Podcast Addict are both independent right now. But I wouldn't say, my sense especially from Marco, is that it's been very difficult to earn an income from Overcast. So that's a clue, right? And if anybody had the skills, influence, network, space in the market, it would be Marco Arment. And he's, I'd say, is, he's doing okay, but it's not a great opportunity. Also, when we look at the actual evidence, what are customers actually doing? Like, are they actually looking for a new podcast app? Or do we just think this could be done better? If there's no appetite on the customer side to go out and search and pay for a new podcast app, it's probably not a good market. It's probably not a good opportunity. And so thanks for asking this question. I think it illustrates something that a misconception that a lot of people make. So I'm glad that you asked it. Let's keep going here. What is your best clue that there's enough demand to start a new idea? Sorry, my throat's getting scratchy again. It is smoky as hell out here. So I talk about some of the clues in the surfing article. So you can look that up. And actually there's a few surfing articles. There's a few articles. Another one is justinjackson.ca/build. How do I build something people want? This goes through some of the ideas, some of the clues that you might observe that might indicate that there's an unmet demand. And one thing I like to see is existing momentum. So are people actively searching out other solutions? You might hear somebody, let's say that, you work with clients and every day you go to work and somebody, you're doing custom website work for people, but every client is asking you to build this certain widget. Like maybe it's a Shopify widget or something, right? Everyone's asking for this thing. And so you custom build it 5, 6, 7 times. That's pretty good evidence that there's demand. People keep asking you for it and they're willing to pay you for it, right? With podcasting, I had tons of friends who were either starting podcasts or were already hosting a podcast with somebody else. So there was evidence that they were willing to pay for it. There was evidence that more and more people were starting shows. And there's also evidence that there were more and more companies starting podcasts, which was a key thing. Overall, I saw a lot of interest in, the New York Times, and, there's always articles about podcasting. When I go to a family reunion, my family for the first time seems interested in podcasting. And so all of these things kind of added up to a sense of, oh, wow, like momentum's really building here. And I think that John and I would be the perfect people to tackle that wave. And, some folks have said, how many other podcast hosting companies have been started the same time as Transistor? Well, tons. And many of them have not done as well. And so clearly the market opportunity on its own is not enough. Like the wave is not enough on its own. It's going to be who actually paddles out and is able to get on top of that thing and ride the wave out for however long it lasts. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on clues. I think, there's other ways, like Taylor Otwell was building things for free. Adam Wathan, building things for free, putting out conference talks, putting out little bits of code, putting out little, tutorials. And the response people saying, oh man, this is super helpful, and then offering something really small for them to buy, and then them buying a lot of it was all the evidence that he needed to write refactoring to collections, and then refactoring UI, and then focusing on Tailwind, and then Tailwind UI. And often you will discover these things as you're, paddling around in different waters. And the idea for Tailwind came from Adam working on a failed SaaS project. And I think he talks about that on his site. By the way, I love this. I'm a full stack entrepreneur and Justin's worst nightmare. Yes. So this article here goes into details on how this idea came about. And you'll see it was, the idea emerged when he was working on something else, but he was able to observe demand. People were excited about, the way he was writing CSS. And that was the clue that there's enough demand to maybe pursue it a bit further. These things are iterative. You get a clue, and then you take it to the next clue and the next clue. All right. Whew, man, I am starting to suffer with a scratchy throat here. Okay, let's get back to comments here. John Friesen, I notice a lot of people listen to advice like this and think, great, got to find my own thing. And I'm qualified for, and there's no demand for, and it's not crowded, and have nothing. Yeah. Yeah, so yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. So a lot of people try to apply this framework, and they're saying, well, after I apply all of those filters, I have nothing left. There's no ideas there. And talking about filters, I also talk about justinjackson.ca, more than product. Yeah, here it is. justinjackson.ca/want. You want more than product market fit, because really you do need to answer the question, is this market a good fit for me as a founder? Is this product a good fit for me as a founder? Is this company structure a good fit for me as a founder? None of this is easy. There's all these things that have to fall into place. And I think that's what frustrates people. And I can remember feeling that way tons of times too, until along came this opportunity, and then along came a partner in John Buddha, and then all of these things started to fall in place while I was out doing other things. You got to keep doing things. You got to keep putting yourself out there. You've got to keep working on interesting problems. You've got to keep, sharing what you're working on, solving your own problems, helping customers solve their problems in the midst of your normal life. As you do those things, and as you develop the skill to observe the shape of demand, the shape and size of oncoming waves, eventually you'll be sitting in the water thinking, this is never going to happen for me. And all of a sudden the perfect wave for you will come along, and you'll have an opportunity to paddle out and go after it. So hopefully that's helpful. So CJ is here. Good to see you, CJ. I'm curious if you have any tips for noticing if you're on a wave. I think this is partly what I'm exploring, is the idea that like a surfer who's been in the water forever can notice when a wave starts to build. They just, oh, look, there's one, it's coming. And they have to time it right? By the time that wave is cresting, they have to have already paddled out, gotten on that wave, pushed themselves up, and then they're riding it, right? By the time they're riding it, it's too late. You're already on it. You're committed to it. And so with Transistor, the podcasting wave, how long is it going to last? I don't know. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 6 months? I have no idea, right? So this is the whole thing, is once you're on the wave, you're kind of committed. That's going to probably determine your growth and your success and how long it's going to last, right? So, I mean, that's just a thought. That's not a rule or anything. I'm just exploring thoughts off the top of my head. I think there are, again, if you check out this blog post, this one here, justinjackson.ca/build, I have a lot of kind of indicators in there that I think will be helpful in terms of noticing opportunities, and then in the surfing article, I talk about the kinds of activities you can do where, the kind of waters you should be paddling in where you might all of a sudden notice more opportunities. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's kind of the thinking there. Did you document those observations, or is it mostly a feeling of momentum? One cool thing about this is I documented it in the sense that right before we launched, I did this talk at MicroConf, Justin MicroConf validation. Where's the full one? There's a short video that's 6 minutes and 48 seconds, and then there's the full video that's 43 minutes. And I talked a little bit about the things I was noticing at the time, the observations I was making, and why I was willing to take the risk and swim out to the podcasting wave. So you might find those videos helpful. All right, let's take a little smoke break just so I can drink some water. This is great though. Glad folks are engaging with all this. It's super helpful. Do you think this is constrained by the winner takes all mindset? I actually love, let's see if I can find this. I mean, if surfers swimming waves, surfers surfing waves. If we stick with the analogy, there's lots of examples, especially in crowded surf spot, of multiple people trying to ride the same wave. And, sometimes I gotta get my. Let's see if I got. There can be multiple people riding this wave here. It doesn't have to just be one at a time. Some waves are big enough to accommodate lots of folks. And again, this is just a metaphor, but there are product categories that can accommodate multiple competitors. MailChimp competitors. Let's Google that. Look at them all. There's tons. Right? Here's a complete MailChimp comparison table. Here's everybody. Oh, no, that's not it. Sometimes you see these big pages full of icons. Here's all of the email newsletter apps. And there can be multiple of them in a single category. Now, your ability to take advantage of that is dependent on where you are in the timing of that wave, what new emergent behaviors and opportunities have come out that MailChimp didn't notice. And if you're Nathan Barry in 2000 and whatever it was, 2013 or whatever, then, it's a good time to go after that wave. And there's this wave of bloggers and creators and the maker movement and folks that weren't satisfied with MailChimp's approach, which was more catered to, mom and pop small businesses. And he went after this kind of new part of the wave, right? Or this new wave. But there's lots of people in his category. So winner takes all is true in some market categories. But, even there's also, I can't remember. Oh, it was Greg Kogan that illustrated this. So he talks about Pepsi. So multiple winners within categories. So, Lyft has a market cap of 8.8 billion, even though it's second in the market to Uber, right? Pepsi sits at number 2, but it owns 25% of a multi-billion-dollar market. HubSpot has a market cap of 7 billion, and Marketo was acquired for 4.75 billion. So the most categories are going to support multiple incumbents. Like why wouldn't you, if there's only one person surfing a great wave, why wouldn't you swim out and try to surf it if you thought you could compete with them, right? So it depends. And I think another thing I'm noticing is that people ask me questions like this when they have something specific in mind. So if you want to be more specific about what category you're thinking of going into, I can give you, my guess. I think project management apps are not great because there are it's a super mature market. It usually requires the approval of the whole team before you get the credit card. You have massive budgets. Even Basecamp, who, has multiple advantages in the category, is having, I think, a hard time competing. It's at least it's not easy. And I think it'd be difficult for a solo founder to go after that category. And, there's lots of examples of other apps like this, like, to-do apps and other things that are, there's just not a lot of momentum in those markets. There's not a lot of untapped demand. Let's put it that way. So, Norm, I'm more and more thinking I should do free stuff for people. Yeah, I think that can be a great approach. The one thing you won't uncover all the time with free stuff is their willingness to pay, which is what Alan Clement brought up in this whole tweet thread here. Willingness to pay, go after a market with a strong willingness to pay, right? But and also I think you can observe, if you're doing consulting work, what are people willing to pay for? It doesn't always have to be free things. But for Adam and Steve Schoger, like Steve Schoger, let's look at his Twitter quick. Steve, he gave away tons of free content. Here's actually a cool technique so let's take Steve's username. Let's go here. I have a min tweet. I have a little shortcut for this. We can look at Steve Schoger's tweets with a minimum of 25 retweets. So this one has 426, 419. He was giving away lots of free advice and free tutorials on Twitter and getting lots of great feedback on it and building up and being able to observe people's willingness and hunger for this kind of material. And then they launched the book right here. And it's done very well. So yes, putting things out for free can be a great way to notice opportunities. And like I said, you're you're most likely you're going to notice opportunities when you're in the midst of doing something else. So, go get out there, make waves, be known for something, stand out with some opinions, stand out with your work, offer help to a community. All of that stuff is helpful. Does it have to be a new wave? Could it just be an industry that could use some differentiation and a new product perspective could be a great new experience? Yes, absolutely. Podcast hosting has been around for like 2 decades or something like that. It had some large, old, crusty incumbents. And that was part of our, what attracted people to Transistor initially was being the new kid on the block with a new perspective. Fresh new perspective. We weren't weighted down with, years and years of craft, years and years of adding new features and UI. We were fresh, we were simple. And initially that was part of the attraction, I think. So there's going to be opportunities. Again, that example is illustrative, not prescriptive. I'm not telling you to go build a podcast hosting platform. Because tons of people have tried. The key is to look at yourself as the surfer sitting in the ocean and thinking, okay, in these waters that I'm in, for my abilities, for my skill set, for this surfboard that I've got, what are some good opportunities I could ride? And it's okay to start with some smaller waves to practice, right? What do you think about the CRM market? CRM market feels like it could be disrupted in the sense, and I already see some people doing this, which is that CRM is basically a way to track customers and interactions with customers and deal flow. And for some businesses, all of their customer lists are in MailChimp or ConvertKit. And so they would like their CRM to be ConvertKit or MailChimp. For other folks, all of their customers and customer interactions are in Hey or Gmail, and they want Hey and Gmail to feel more like a CRM. So I think this would be one example of where maybe a niche would be a good opportunity. But again, this is all too broad. Like, in a lot of ways, it doesn't matter what I think about the CRM market. What matters is what is your expertise in that market? How long have you been swimming in those waters? What advantages and strengths do you bring to the table? What have you noticed that all the big incumbents haven't noticed? What are the things that they're missing? What are the gaps in the market that the existing players are missing? Who are the people and the customers and the untapped pockets of demand that haven't been unearthed yet by any of the big players? And if you have that perspective, then you should go after it. If you don't yet have that perspective, it means you haven't swam in the water enough. You need to build your fundamentals, which is what I talked about in the surfing article, which I've now lost. justinjackson.ca/surfing. Lots of examples of how to develop your business fundamentals. So it's hard for me to comment on existing spaces, like the CRM market, because I don't know a lot about it. I do know more about the creator market, Gumroad, Podia, ConvertKit, Paddle, Memberful, Memberspace. I think Patreon. I think there's lots of opportunities in that space still. And I see them every day because I'm swimming in those waters. Oh, hey, Noah. Good to see you, man. Okay, no one look at Noah's old YouTube channel. This is kind of the same question as Harris was asking. I will tell you, a lot of people go after KPI metrics market. One of my favorite examples of this is, what's his name? I'll think of it. Dan at Black Hops Brewing. What's his name? Dan Norris. So Dan Norris initially built a KPI dashboard. Let's see if we can find an article on this when he talked about it. He talks about it at some point. You might be able to find it on his blog, but he created a KPI dashboard ages ago, and he talks about why it didn't work. And I've seen a lot of folks build these KPI and metrics dashboards, and I just, again, who's looking for it? Who wants this now? Who wants this today? That's the question. Is this something that people are already spending considerable time and effort trying to do? Or is it just something fun that they hack together because it's fun? Is it just nice to have? Is it just something that pleased the boss one day but isn't really a big deal? And it's why I like this question that Vincent Wu asks, which is, show me that there's enough people who have a high enough economic incentive to have a dashboard, to have KPI metrics in this space, then it might be worth building. But if it's not, if there's not enough there, then it's probably not worth pursuing. Let's see if I can find that quote here. Yeah, so if you're on my newsletter list, just the last email I sent, People Don't Get It, I have this transcript of Vincent Wu and Cortland Allen. But I understand the product you're proposing, but are you sure that there are buyers is the question. What evidence do I have that my potential customers have a strong enough economic incentive to purchase my product? This is especially true in B2B. B2C is a little bit different. Jonathan says, keep an eye on Jetpack CRM. A lot of opportunity in the CRM and WordPress space. Could be true. I don't have enough expertise in that field to know. Unrelated to what you're talking about, I'd be keen to learn more about your streaming setup. Okay. So, hey, Mark Bennett, good to see you. That's an old Edmonton friend. Nice to have you here, man. I talk about my live streaming setup, justinjackson.ca/live streaming. So if you, it's got most of my setup there. Basically, I run Ecamm Live that does all the, the circle and switching between screens, and then the distribution is through Restream.io. Whew. All right. This has been a while, hasn't it? Should we keep going? Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Means a lot to have some folks that appreciate what I have to say. I'd be lying if I said that sometimes snarky, cynical comments on Twitter and other places don't get me down. I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. And some of this stuff I'm trying to figure out loud. I think one critique that I do take seriously is people worry that I'm giving the wrong advice to people who are new, people who are just starting a business. And I maybe I am. I hope I'm not. I think the idea of having a strong foundation, starting with customer demand, starting with the market. Again, the market is the sum of all of the demand for a particular thing that you're proposing. And I'm not saying that you should stop blogging or that you should stop trying to build an audience or that you should stop, exploring different areas and different niches. You should be doing those things. You're going to find your opportunities while you are in motion. It's just like coronavirus infections. The more you walk around outside, the more you're going to get infected. Well, that's true for business opportunities as well. Hey, Sam, good to see you. I'm not done yet. If you want to, I'll keep streaming for you. Sam is one of my favorite people on the internet. Sam Podlegar, look him up. And if you have any more questions or things you want me to address, you can ask that now. Here again, let's look at the smoke cam. Still not great out there. It's let's look at the desk cam. So this is real life, right? This is a messy desk. Got granola bar, and this is I'm just a human being trying to figure things out here. Anything else folks want to know or ask me about before I leave? Am I showing my screen? I got to check my messages here. Okay, just check these messages too. Air quality has been really bad. There's a site called purpleair.com that shows all of the air quality. So, here's the coast. This is where all the fires were. You just keep going up, keep going up. You got Medford, it's pretty bad there. Let's go up to Portland, really bad in Portland. Up to 312. Like 312 is like very, very not good for your health. And then you just keep going up. Portland's on their way down though. You got Bellingham, and then here's Vancouver. They're down a little bit, and then you head over to where I'm at in Vernon. I'm right downtown, 181. So we were quite a bit higher. So I think, and it's starting to go down now. Thank God. It's been so brutal. So yeah, you can't think, you can't sleep. It's just not fun. Have not tried StreamYard yet. I think they just released it for Mac, so. Oh, hey, Riley. Good to see you. Riley's another one you folks should all be following. If you don't want to just listen to one person, go check out Riley on Twitter. I think he's just Riley Chase. Let's just see here. He's got a great kind of running thread. It's _R Chase _ and nice pinned tweet here of he just is always sharing what he's learning. And I think the other thing we need to be doing is, there's a accumulation of experience and advice, and we need to bring all of these things together and, form your own opinions and go out into the world and try to make things happen. I'm just trying to be helpful from my perspective. What is your team like now at Transistor? It's myself doing product and marketing, John Buda doing product and full stack development. And we're the only full-time people. And then we have 3 contractors. We have Yatunde is awesome. She helps us with whenever I have like smaller coding projects on the marketing site. And she also helps us with customer support. And then Helen Riles helps us with customer support, customer experience. We don't have a ton of customer support work that we need to hire someone full-time yet. So between them doing it part-time, just as contractors, and then John and I still spend a lot of time in support. In fact, I should probably check support. I've been offline for a while. I've been chatting to you folks. See, this is why, like, it's actually probably a disadvantage for me to always be talking to you folks about this. I miss out on all these customer support requests. So yeah, those are the folks we've hired so far. And then Chris Enns is our podcast editor. And that's it. It's just John and I full time, and then Helen, Yatunde, and Chris doing some part-time contract work. Biggest challenges. Well, I don't know if you can identify with this, but once you've made it, quote unquote, you still kind of wake up every morning with some anxiety of how long is this going to last? How long is this wave I'm on going to last? Is Spotify going to come in and disrupt the whole industry and kind of destroy this nice, beautiful, open RSS podcasting space we have? Yeah, so I sometimes get anxiety about that. I also get anxiety about, sharing advice like this and trying to be helpful, and then just thinking, if I ever fail now, there seems to be a bunch of people on Twitter and other places that are just waiting to say, aha, waiting for me to fail. That's a sucky feeling. Biggest challenges. And yeah, I think we're, now we've grown so much that growing to the next level, I think is, getting those double-digit growth months is a lot harder because, our baseline is so high now. So I struggle with that. And what else? Sometimes, I don't think this is a struggle, but I think you should know that, like, John and I have a good back and forth. And, sometimes there's healthy struggle there of him and I trying to figure out what's good for the product, what customers are really asking for behind all of these support requests. I think there's some healthy challenges there, and things that I'm always thinking about, like how can I make sure my relationship with John is healthy in the same way that you might be asking that question of a significant other or a spouse. The dynamics are similar. The nice thing about a co-founder, though, is that you're not spending all of your time with them. So if you get into a fight, you can go away from the office and sleep on it and then come to work the next day. And often, some of that bad feelings have disappeared. So, Mark's if you've got StreamYard questions, send them his way. Mark Bennett, he's using them a ton. I'm a big fan of Mark. I'm not sure where you're working right now, Mark, but if folks can hire Mark, I highly recommend it. Thanks, Robert. And now we got people giving themselves advice within themselves. Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it. And, oh, good. I'm just catching up to your comments. Super relatable. Cool. Should we end it now? Hello. We've been going for like an hour. Anyone else have anything? that they want to ask me before we go? Yeah, it's actually one reason I don't think I could work with family. It's just like you have no opportunity to go away and, have a breather. So, thanks, man. I can do anything here. I could show you my feminine side if I want to, right? This would be an entirely different broadcast if I do it this way. It's like I can also be a more manly version of myself. Pink. Oh yes. See, I should have done the whole presentation like this. I think every remote presentation needs to have some sort of filter like this. Okay, I think Sam's got a serious question. I don't want to ask it with that. Do you have any trouble transitioning to working in a two-man environment after working solo? Yes. Yeah, for sure. I'm used to doing my own thing all the time, and now with John, I have a very opinionated cohort, and it's been very healthy. It's been challenging, but it's been good. I think the challenge when you're solo is that you just call all the shots, but there's no one to check you on it. No one there to push back and say, are you sure that's a good idea? And my old inclinations of chasing down every new idea I had are definitely moderated by having a co-founder with John Buddha. It's been a really good experience. If you can find someone that evens you out like that, I recommend it. I think there's a lot of super smart, technical product, full stack developers that really need good product marketers. All right. One more time. Here's the smoke. And just appreciate all you folks hanging out. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm down if you ever need to, if you have questions on Twitter, or if you're in the Mega Maker Slack, or, just let me know. I'll do one more question from Sam, and then I'm going to end it. With only 2 people and no tiebreaker, how do you guys handle a situation where you are both in differing opinions on what should be done? We have a work philosophy and a product philosophy called wait and see. And so if we can't come to a consensus, we just wait and see. And a lot of things that we thought were super important end up being not a big deal. All right, folks. Stay safe.